I would have loved this slide to follow so that we can all follow along, but I guess we'll have to continue that way. Does anybody know what a venture is? Or can anybody help us with the definition of a venture? What is a venture? Anybody? I'll give us a clue. It's from adventure. Can anybody just speak what a venture is? Nobody? Alright. So, a venture is a risky or daring journey or undertaking. A risky or daring journey or undertaking. It has been defined as such because it is very likely that you might not make it to the end of that journey. It is very likely that it is filled with a lot of uncertainties. And that while you are venturing, you might head to one pitfall or the other, and you might not just make it. Right? And if our smiling figure there, that's the stigma, if he knows how daring it is, and he knows that a lot can go wrong from his venture, he probably will not be smiling. But as you can see, he has a smile with his venture, with his bad path. So by the end of the class today, I hope to answer some questions. Right? Which tech venture is right for me? Right? The fact that it is available does not mean that it is right for you. It might be out there, like my brother said, forex trading. It might be out there, but it doesn't mean that it is right for you. How do I venture with purpose? It's good to have a mindset, or it's good to venture with purpose and know why you're venturing. This has to do with more of the whys. How to navigate the terrain. We'll be having tips and we'll be having some ideas on how to navigate venturing successfully. And finally, how do I succeed in it? We'll be having some tips for success. We will be also studying some people who have ventured successfully, and we'll be having one or two lessons from them. In order to answer these questions that we have here on the board, I have prepared a few lessons that we can study from. Right? A few lessons that we can study from. And after studying those lessons, I am sure that we will be able to answer these questions. And if you don't have answers to your question, to these questions here, then I suggest that you listen very, very, very properly. Lesson number one. A yes, I can mindset. Right? The yes, I can mindset. Firstly, we know that everything begins from the mind. In fact, the Bible tells us in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 7, that for as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. This means that your thoughts and your thinking shape your identity and your direction. Right? You might be thinking of venturing into tech today. You might be thinking of having one tech-related venture or the other. But in your mind, you're already doubting yourself. You don't believe you have what it takes to venture. Mindset itself determines a person's interpretation and response to challenges. Right? And it is important to sell that venture or that challenge or that opportunity to yourself first as being possible before you could actually convince other people, and hold firm to that belief that it can be done. All our lives we have been told that we should build on our core competence. We should build on what we know best or what we are most talented at. Yeah? And whenever a challenge arises from that core competence, we should say no, right? I'm asking us. No. No. Right? In fact, I have one of, I think there's this guy, Samuel Aboyeji. Samuel Aboyeji, who is the co-founder of Mandela. This guy did not study anything tech-related. But do we know what Mandela is? Does anybody know what Mandela is? Yes, okay. In fact, he studied international development. And although he didn't study computer science, he had the mindset that it was possible to venture into tech. And he did not just go on to co-found Mandela, he went on to co-found Flutterwave, the fintech payments platform we are all familiar with. And such great feats as this can only be achieved when you have the yes mindset to challenges and to ventures. Philippians chapter 4 verses 13 tells us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You can do all things. You can carry out every single venture that comes your way by believing that indeed it is possible. Lesson number 2. Venture with a purpose. Venture with a purpose. We already have a bunch of these tech-related ventures in our head, but we need to know why we are drawn to it. Profits might be a common answer, right? But I personally believe that profit is only a part of the result. Right? We must first of all understand the purpose, the cause, and the belief. Our own belief. We have to ensure that whatever we are venturing into is value-driven. First, the money side of it is going to come, but I strongly believe that it is only going to come after, and it's going to be a result of whatever venture we choose to place our hands in. Right? And when I say our belief, as Christians, there are certain tech-related ventures that may be available, but are not available to us. For example, sports events. It's not available to you. Cybercrime is not available to you as a Christian. Please, let's not forget. The fact that it is an available tech venture does not mean it is for you. Right? We have to ensure that whatever we are pursuing, we pursue with the mindset of a Christian and the mindset of purpose. In order to pursue our venture with purpose, I'm giving us a very short abbreviation here. The next slide. The PELT abbreviation. P then stands for problem or passion. E stands for exposure. Right? The problem or passion is the real world problem that you care about solving. The E then stands for exposure. After identifying such problems, you then expose yourself to the various resources available to solve those problems. Right? L, you learn. I could come up here and yell, learn the tech skill, learn the tech skill, learn the tech skill. But for what? You need to have a problem at the back of your mind you are aiming to solve. Value you are aiming to create. Right? Before eventually venturing into that tech skill. And finally, take action. Right? It is only after you have identified that problem or that passion that you can then decide, okay, I want to venture. Right? The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 3, tells us, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. Ultimately, we are required to pray as well, that whatever we find ourselves venturing into, definitely or not, that we have purpose involved as we do. Lesson number 3. Know your target market. Right? And to drive that point home, I have given us 3 points. Number 1, think narrow and not broad. Number 2, master one area. And point number 3, understudy the market for relevance. Now, when I say think narrow and not broad, it sounds counterintuitive, right? But thinking narrow is going to help us focus on growing in one niche and mastering that niche. I used to have a friend back then in the university. You go and meet him. His name was Stephen. His name is Stephen. His name is Stephen. So that's his name is Stephen. Yeah. No. You go have these people today. People will tell you, I'm learning data science. Good. You go and meet him tomorrow and tell you he's learning cloud computing. Tomorrow you go and meet him. You tell me he's learning DevOps. Next tomorrow is web. Will never learn anything? Never. People will not learn anything. If he chooses not to focus in one niche and grow in that niche. Brethren, are we following? A jack of all trades is a master of none. Master one area. You know, when I was working at an auto company, there used to be this guy at Somebody. He specialized in fixing mini Coopers. Who knows what a mini Cooper is? It's a weird looking car. It looks like a cartoon kind of car. Yes, he specialized in it, and he was so good with fixing mini Coopers that he carved a market for himself. Whenever there's a mini Cooper that has faults, it's sent to me. You know, that's the power of focusing on just one niche alone. Right? Another example is Nike, the popular sportswear brand, Nike. They started with the purpose of making shoes that were easy to wear and run. When you run on the track and you run, if you run on the track, if you run on the track or you run on the road, you notice there's a difference. So they were looking at making a technology where it reduces that difference between the impact you feel on the track and on the road. And just by focusing on that niche, they were able to become one of the biggest sports gear wearers we have in the world today. There's a quote by Bruce Lee that says, I am not afraid of a man that knows 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of a man that has practiced drop kick 10,000 times. That, brothers and sisters, is the power of focusing on one particular niche. Lesson number 4. Get the partnership and resources. Get the resources and partnership. Whether it's venturing into a tech skill, tech business, or one field or the other, the truth is you need the right resources, right? Or you need the right partnership. Or you need both. Okay? If you know of the tech venture you have in your head that you want to have plans of venturing into, it is only advisable, it's only wise, that you approach brothers and sisters who have successfully ventured there and seek guidelines. You know? You ask them, okay, what approach did you take? How did you start? What difficulties is someone like me who is beginning this particular spec? What difficulties am I going to face, or what do you think I'm going to face, and how best do I survive? Seek individuals who have ventured successfully into tech and ask for help or guidance. If you don't have the funding or resources, you can also share, your idea to somebody who you feel can drive your idea to accomplishment or to fulfillment. Share your idea with them, and if they have the resource, they can also take the idea. You can form a collaboration, and you people can venture together. That's also another way to go about it. And then finally, you can also fund the idea yourself. Aside from pitching the idea to someone. Because most times when you go to meet somebody and you say, have a grand idea, you bring the money and bring the idea. You know what the reaction probably will be like. If you're going to be getting skepticism, that's what it is. So sometimes the safest bet for you is to think of how you can fund that idea yourself and bring it to reality. And there are several ways to go about it. At least I know some examples that I can give us and will help us to have some idea to give us some tips on funding our tech ventures. The first is you can do a 9 to 5 to fund your ideas. Yes, it's a painful process, but you can do a 9 to 5, and from there you can begin to fund that passion you want to venture into. You can freelance, and from there you begin to fund that venture you want to get into. I was in the popular tricycle, the electric one. I don't use the gas powered. I was in the electric one. And then, while I was there, the cafe driver was just talking to his friend. And then, yes, the tricycle. The local ones are calling, they are picking on the keke. I'm trying to do this to you. So, the guy was there and he was like, oh, I'm just doing this work because I want to venture into something else. And I was hearing this conversation. He was like, I was talking to his friend. After doing this, I'm just gathering money, and then I'm gathering money to go and learn cinematography. I was like, wow. I was shocked. Said I'm planning on buying this laptop and this DSLR camera or something like that. And I'm buying and thinking about this. There's no more naira, there's some saving to get into it. That's the mindset of somebody who is ready to get the resource to fund his or her venture. You shouldn't just sit down and say, oh, there's no money to even start that particular venture. Just do it. Just want to sleep. It takes pain, it takes hard work, but then we have some comfort in the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 11. It says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Right? So there is greater reward for gathering your wealth in bit by bit. Okay? So don't let the lack of capital bury your vision. Don't let the lack of capital bury your vision. If you are so focused on the monetary aspect of things, or the finance aspect of things, and you just want to make money, that's where you end up doing things like what our brother suggested. You just make up one day and say you want to go and gamble, you want to start, betting, you want to start forex. They say the love of money is what? The root of all evil. So if you don't venture with the Spirit of God, you don't venture with knowing very well that it can be possible without you putting money first, but rather you considering putting value and developing something that has great impact. You would likely lose focus. Lesson number 5. Beg for forgiveness, not permission. We are at lesson number 5, much more. We are moving faster than I anticipated, actually. No problem. We are moving faster than I anticipated. I thought this was a very good lecture. Anyway, don't wait for the perfect moment or validation. Right? That's what basically this particular lesson is telling us to do. Beg for forgiveness and not permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start. Do not wait for external validation to start. You should take on your initiative, act on your dreams, even though it feels risky. Right? Even though you might fail at the end, you should be courageous. Right? To forgive yourself. It is important, this point is very important because we have had situations where, as a young person, you probably have a dream that you so much cherish. You probably have a tech venture that you so much cherish. But then, you have approached people, and a lot of people have told you, look, my brother, don't even do this, it's not possible. But then you are so convinced in that idea, you're so convinced in the reality of that idea and how grand it is that you decide to venture there. And at the end of the day, you waste resources. Let's say you fail. You waste resources, you waste time, you might even burn some relationship because of the I told you so responses that you're going to be getting. My message to us is forgive yourself, have the courage to try again, and also have the courage to beg forgiveness. Let us look at the book of Esther chapter 4, verses 11 to 16. Everybody can read that for us. Esther chapter 4, verses 11 to 16. Esther 4, 11 to 16. All the kings, officials, and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one rule, that they be put to death unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their life. For 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, but if I perish, I perish. That is one of the most iconic verses from the book of Esther. If I perish, I perish. The summary of that story is